Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our first Coffee Microcaps webinar of 2023. You're all very welcome back to another edition, and we've got two companies presenting this morning. I'm just going to quickly run through some slides here just to give an overview and an introduction, and then we're going to get straight into it. My name is Mark Tobin. I'm the founder of Coffee Microcaps, for anybody who's joining us for the first time. And I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsors, DMX Asset Management, who sponsor all our online events here at Coffee Microcaps. And if you're interested in a small or microcap fund manager, please do reach out to them on their website or via the emails there for Stephen and Michael. Quick compliance and disclaimer slide. For anybody joining us for the first time, the companies we normally have presenting in our events are capped under 300 million in revenue and approaching cash flow break even, or indeed already profitable, from outside the resources and biotech sectors generally, what I like to call industrial microcaps, which encompasses microcap healthcare, financial services, retailers, all those kind of other sectors. Structured this morning's webinar, we've got two companies presenting, 30 minutes slot for each, roughly broken down into a 20-minute preso and 10 minutes Q&A. If you do have any questions for our presenters, please type them in the Q&A box rather than the chat function. It just makes it easier for me to moderate the questions. And please note the webinar is being recorded. If you want to follow Coffee Microcaps, you can get us on Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and I also write a free monthly newsletter which you can get on the Substack platform. Our first presenter this morning is going to be Atomo Diagnostics. I'm delighted to be welcoming back John Kelly and Will Souter, and they will be followed by Teri Thomas, who's going to be joining us from Auckland from Volpara Health Technologies Limited. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to John. So John, if you want to start, I'll stop sharing my screen, sorry. And if you want to start sharing your screen, I'll let you know when I can see your slides coming up. I can see your presentation now, John, and I can hear you perfectly as well.
Good. Well, listen, we'll jump into it. I would like to thank everyone for taking the time to join with us today to go through our Q2 quarterly. I'll start by handing over to our CFO.
As John said, the end of Q2 for FY23 for Atomo. Another good quarter for us. Obviously, we're still going through the kind of post-COVID transition phase where, you know, customers and partners are looking at where do they go after COVID? What does that mean for rapid diagnostic testing, and how do they differentiate themselves from their competition in terms of you know, their devices and their tests? And so we'll talk a little bit more about that. But just to jump into the financials, cash receipts during the quarter of 1.65 million. A chunk of that was made up of the R&D rebate related to expenditure in the 22 year. So that was around 1.2 million. And the rest was receipts from customers, largely made up of revenue from HIV sales, across sales to Viatris in global health, global health markets, and also some growing sales in the Australian market, which is encouraging to see. Revenue for the quarter was just under 500,000, bringing revenue for the first half from product sales to 1.4 million. With cash receipts across the first half of 3 million, we finished the period 31 December with over $10 million of cash in hand. Pleasingly, we also had a couple of large orders come through just post the period end close. So we had another 100,000 unit order from Viatris for HIV tests, and we had a further 107,000 unit order for Pascal devices from NG Biotech, who are our partner for rapid blood-based pregnancy testing. So there were some sales that didn't make it into the numbers for Q2 and for the first half that will show up in Q3 and the second half. And John will talk some more about both of those markets and where we're heading, both across HIV and the exciting developments on the pregnancy side, you know, with our renewed partnership with NG Biotech.
Yeah, no, I think as Will mentioned, you know, we're in a transition phase post-COVID. I think the landscape's changed very positively for us over the medium term, and that is the normalization of home testing. And a lot of the diagnostic companies in the market are really focused on how they can pivot their point of care business more into decentralized and at-home settings. And our platform now is well proven as a market leader in delivering that level of usability. And now we are in the process of bringing our existing customers back onto the platform for relaunch in the form of NG Biotech and the pregnancy sales that we've seen in the last couple of months and the deal we've struck with them. And then also increasing our awareness, the awareness of our platform and business in the US market in particular. And I'll be heading to the US for another conference next month to really start to cement some of those opportunities into contracts as we move forward. The HIV business is growing. We're expecting a stronger second half of year. There was a bit of a hiatus in HIV screening in global health and also developed markets through the pandemic. We're seeing some catch up there. We've, as Will mentioned, received a big order this month already, more to come in the next couple of months. So I think we'll finish the year strongly with HIV and global health. We're also seeing much improved market conditions in Australia. We're into the pharmacy channel now through efforts we've made to directly go to pharmacies, as well as a agreement with API to really scale up the access in pharmacies. And we're looking at how we can promote the product in that private channel sector more effectively, especially with Mardi Gras coming up. But outside of that, we're now focused on engaging with the Public Health Service. HIV testing, as we've always said, is a public health matter, not a discretionary consumer spend. And we're looking to engage with the Australian government, both federal and state, to make sure that rapid testing is reimbursed on a structure comparable with lab testing. That's been lacking in Australia, and I think Australia is now an outlier in its policy position there. And we're making that point to government, as well as the point that other countries are moving ahead with government-supported rapid test programs, and we think there's a lot of momentum with key stakeholders in the country to make that happen. So we're very excited about that. I think a partnership with government would really increase the market opportunity that HIV testing has, and we're the only test that's approved as a self-test currently in Australia. So very excited about that. Outside of Australia, we have a new resource in the UK that's focused on bringing our professional test to market. We have a CE mark approval, and we'll be hoping to announce soon some traction there on the launch of that product, certainly this side of June 30, in terms of that leading through to some revenue. So that's all moving in the right direction. And beyond that, as Will mentioned, we've been keen to expand our portfolio. We struck a deal that we're very excited about with NG Biotech. They're currently selling the product in a number of markets in Europe. They just relaunched it after a break when they were focused on COVID. They recently also purchased product for Brazil. They've received regulatory approval there. They have placed a further order on us for additional volume going into this calendar year. And then beyond that, we have secured rights to the product under an Atomo or third-party brand for us to commercialize in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and the US. And that US market access allows us to now engage with a number of established channel partner opportunities in the US. Pregnancy, as you know, is a very well-established at-home test category. There are no blood tests as yet approved in that home test market. We feel that our Pascal device is ideally suited to get an OTC approval in the US, and pregnancy by way of blood confirmation is more aligned with doctor office confirmation, and blood seen as a more reliable and in many cases earlier to detect sample type than urine. So we think there's a real opportunity to take a market leader position there. We'll also be working to put that dossier into the TGA for local registration, and we've already commenced some channel partner discussions on the launch of that product, and the work we've done with HIV really supports the introduction of pregnancy now into the pharmacy channel. And we're working on a number of other applications that also go on Pascal and can go into that consumer market, and we expect to be able to announce them, in the coming months. So certainly very excited about the new finished products that we are bringing to market, and also encouraged by the amount of interest now for the platform outside of our own products. So in that OEM device business where we supply our products to other companies, having secured regulatory approval now for different platforms in different key markets. We have some regulatory approvals that we can refer to when we're talking to potential customers. We have got NG successfully selling their pregnancy product as well as our own HIV business. So all of that lends enormous credibility to the platform. And we're now seeing renewed interest from companies that are really focused on the ability to test at home through both retail sales as well as the US market that's now online and covered by reimbursement in many cases through telehealth consults. That allows us to really position that OEM business as something to grow in the US, and the usability study that we had done in late 2022 delivered results that we were extremely pleased with. It showed a very high level of user preference for our platform over the standard chemistry set bits in box format that's typically used in home testing. Not only was it preferred by users, but it reduced errors, critical errors that can lead to non-accurate results. It reduced, in terms of blood delivery, errors by more than 90%. In terms of buffer delivery, removed that error completely, took it from 16% down to 0. So we're really excited about the proven performance of that. That's now validated, and we'll be using that to support regulatory applications in the US and Australia, as well as obviously using that as one of our key talking points for evidencing the benefits of the product when we're talking to third parties that may be interested in using it. So I think that's going to lead to significant commercial traction in the coming months and quarters, and we're very excited about that. Really for us, the focus now is to continue to scale up the HIV business, launch the pregnancy business, and secure meaningful market penetration with some well-positioned channel partners in key markets, bring on a number of new tests over the coming 12 to 18 months beyond pregnancy, and then scale up that OEM business so that installed capacity that we have can be deployed into supplying those devices to other diagnostics companies that are going to guarantee us broader market penetration as well as volumes as they roll out. So we think we're well positioned. We've got a cash balance to support that strategy, and we're very judicious in how that money's been spent, and excited about the coming quarter. Mark, if you're back on audio, we're happy to take any questions you might have, or any from the audience.
Yeah, John, I'm back on. I just want to confirm you can hear me okay now.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Just if we can, I just want to pick up on a point from where you were just there at the end in terms of the other tests that you're looking to maybe bring onto the platform. I mean, is it, something to do like with, basic liver function or basic kidney function or testing cholesterol levels? What are some of the avenues you're currently engaged with, I guess, other parties in terms of what kind of test might eventuate if you can put a deal together?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, one that we've been kind of working through for the last 12 months really now. And what we've been trying to do is find applications that kind of are in the sweet spot. And by that, I mean, there's an existing commercially available assay that we can utilize. We don't want to be spending a lot of time and effort and cash doing R&D in chemistry development. That's not our core focus. So we want to have an assay that's commercially available from a trusted partner that we can rely on, not just to get the approval, but to supply. We want to make sure that we've got a regulatory pathway that can be delivered so that we don't end up running into trouble with the clinical and regulatory delivery of the product to market. And thirdly, and most importantly, we want to make sure that there is genuine market demand for that application on our platform in a decentralized setting like a pharmacy or at home. And that's the key success, because what we don't want to do is build it and hope they will come. We want to make sure we're delivering products that the market want. And that's where the engagement with some of these larger US-based distribution partners has been really helpful, as well as some of the emerging e-commerce players, as well as doing our own market research and consumer awareness research to really hone in on the applications that we think will drive sales over the coming sort of 5 to 7 years. So we're looking at a mix of infectious diseases where there's a proven need, so at-home STI testing, so building on that HIV footprint, looking at things like hepatitis and herpes, as well as swab-based applications using our new swab device, things like gonorrhea, syphilis, and other swab-based sampling at-home tests. That's a very well-established market. And at-home testing for STIs is now increasingly getting reimbursed by public health in the US. And I think, with some pressure brought to bear in the Australian government, we're hopeful that that could be a channel here. Outside of infectious disease, there's the growing consumer market, things like iron deficiency, vitamin D deficiency, celiac and anemia, and allergy potentially. So there's a real opportunity for consumer testing. The challenge there is that those markets aren't necessarily being delivered at home because companies have not been able to get the regulatory approvals to support those market entries, but we think our device opens up that opportunity. So they're the kinds of applications that we're focused on. And I think as the commercial discussions with channel partners solidify, we'll be able to lock those in and get those announced to market.
Okay, great. And then just on the orders that came in post the end of the quarter, just a question on, how long before they, get delivered, convert to cash? Should we expect to see that coming through in the next quarter, or is it, given the volumes, they're both over 100,000, will it be more over the first half rather than in this third quarter, or sorry, second half rather than in this third quarter?
Yeah, so we're already in production, Mark, on the HIV product, so that should go out this quarter. And similarly, the Pascal devices that NG Biotech have ordered, they're underway. Whether they fall in this quarter or just the beginning of the next quarter remains to be seen in terms of delivery, but they're both underway, so imminent.
Yeah, and I just add to that, we are hopeful of further sizable orders coming through from different countries where the product's been registered, the HIV product I'm talking about. So I do think there'll be a number of orders coming through in this quarter that will then feed into revenues growing into quarter four as we get towards 30 June. Okay,
great. And then on the UK business development person you've got on the ground there, I just want is their focus primarily on the UK market, or is it a kind of UK based role, but they're also looking at some of the bigger European markets given the CE approval that you've got in place?
Yeah, no, they're based in the UK, but they're very much representing us in Europe and also in the Middle East. Anna Tucker is the new executive there, and she's actually heading today to Arab Health. We've got a booth there. We'll be looking to establish distribution channel opportunities in the Middle East and possibly into Southeast Asia. That gives us opportunities for both the HIV product as well as potentially offering NG some channel partners in some of those other markets for pregnancy, as well as then setting up an in-country partner for us to bring these other tests into. So I think her background is setting up and managing distributor networks, and we think a distributor network across Europe, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia allows us to go to market directly into those channels, and then in larger markets like Europe and the US, we'll be looking for some channel partner support. And we've got Jim McMenemy over in the US that's doing the equivalent role in North America. So we are able now to really deliver regional commercial support to our partners, and I think that's really helpful.
And I just want to touch on the scale up thing, John, for a bit of history, especially on the HIV facilities. I mean, if you want to just quickly give people a bit of background on, what the capacity and facilities are in place to deal with, the ramp up now, given that, a lot of investment has gone in getting set up for this ramp up, so that you don't get caught with kind of supply constraints.
Yeah, no, I mean, one of the nice points of where we are at the moment is that CapEx is spent. We have the manufacturing capacity installed and qualified. We can make up to 20 million cassettes per annum. We've got our own Atomo run facility in South Africa, a small facility. It's got about 15 staff, but allows us to make up to 3 million HIV self-test products per year under our own control, and that facility is being audited and certified by the TGA, CE mark notified body, and also the World Health Organization. So that's a facility that we could also potentially look to utilize for new tests that we want to bring to market, such as, you know, allergy or anemia or ferritin or those types of applications. So that installed base is there, the CapEx is spent, and that allows us to now focus on commercial rollout without having to continue to invest into production. And that's why we've been able over the last 6 months to you know, conserve our cash and pivot into commercial activities and not have to spend money on further R&D and manufacturing infrastructure. That's all ready to go.
Okay, great. And then is there anything, I know you talked about the usability study that finished off the back end of last year. Is there anything over the next 6 to 12 months we should be looking out from Atomo in terms of clinical research or kind of further validation of the platform, either on the blood tests, on the pregnancy side or on the HIV side, that, you know, will kind of push along the case for making these more available for use at home or in a pharmacy setting, be it, you know, in the Australian market or in other international markets?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes. I mean, that study, we've known intuitively that the device really improves outcomes for users, particularly untrained users, and we've a number of sort of aligned studies that demonstrated that, but what we didn't have was a large independent study that really validated that for the market and for regulators and partners. And I think the results from that have been outstanding, certainly, you know, more than exceeded my expectations. So we're delighted with that. It proves the product's better. It proves it's easier to use. It proves that users prefer it overwhelmingly. And I think all of that really gives us a massive headwind as we sort of sail into that US market and try and close out some of those discussions. Beyond that, application-wise, we are working with NG to deliver a study that will, we believe, quantify how much earlier the pregnancy test delivers a positive result than a urine-based test. Earlier detection is critical in a number of markets. We think being able to demonstrate an earlier detection window than a urine test will add significant commercial interest to the product and will allow us to secure some really top level channel partner engagement, both in hospital as well as over-the-counter markets. And I think that study will be really helpful in establishing exactly what the blood test benefits are outside of our usability. The HIV test, you know, it's been tested by pretty much everybody. It's been trialed in multiple countries. I think it's the best performing test on the market. You know, that evidence is there. I don't think we need to spend more money on HIV, but certainly for new applications, we're taking existing assays that are on the market in a much less user-friendly format. We'll obviously be having to revalidate them on our platform, but that's a proven pathway for us. And with that, we'll expect to see improved clinical performance that will obviously, you know, point to when we're launching those products and showing the market just how good our device is at delivering usability.
Very great. So we'll keep an eye out for that NG study at some stage in 2023. If I just want to check if we got any questions from the audience as of yet. None as yet.
So Mark, in terms of just on that point, Mark, I think that those studies won't necessarily be released, but the proof will be in the approvals that are obtained on the back of those studies. I think, just to clarify that point.
Okay. So
yeah, but that's what people. If you think about what people should keep an eye out for in terms of releases coming from Atomo over the next, you know, 6+ months, that's what it is. It's the TGA approval for the pregnancy test here in Australia, and then it's submission to the FDA of the trial studies and so forth, and then ultimately the approvals from the FDA.
And I think along that pathway, agreements around different channel distribution arrangements for various countries and various markets, both professional and self-test.
Okay. And we'll definitely keep an eye out for those. And other outstanding regulatory approvals. Anything major in Asia, perhaps, that we should be on the lookout for as well?
Well, our existing HIV approval gives us the opportunity to register in a range of markets, and we do have the HIV product now launched registered and launched in more than 20 countries through various partners. With regard to pregnancy, obviously getting the TGA approval, as that comes, it then offers export certification that can be used to register in other markets in Southeast Asia. So we're certainly in the process of looking to prioritize that. And Anna, as I mentioned, is at Arab Health to try and find some suitable distribution partners into those markets. So as those two things come together, we'll be looking to follow up with a local launch, in Southeast Asia, and in parallel with that, moving forward with an FDA submission.
Okay, great. John, I think we might leave it there if we don't have any further questions from the audience at this time, which I don't think we have, because I do know we have Teri standing by. So I think we'll leave it there. And thanks, thanks very much for coming back in and giving us an update on all things Atomo. And we'll keep an eye out on the ASX for further updates. And thanks for persevering with the sound and technical thing just at the start there. But I think we managed to get through those, and I think everybody was able to hear the presentation after that.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Will. And we might start a minute or two early now with Teri. Teri, if you're with us, she is. And just to introduce Teri for anybody who doesn't know, Teri Thomas, the CEO of Volpara. Some of you who are regulars of Coffee Microcaps will be familiar with the Volpara story, and we've had Ralph Higham, the previous CEO, present a number of times, but I'm delighted now to have Teri join us to give us an update. It's actually been a while since Volpara presented. So Teri, I can see the cover slide of your presentation now with the new B Corp certification on there. Congratulations on that. One of the few listed entities, I think, in the world actually who are B Corp certified. There's not many around. So please take it away.
Yeah, we're quite proud of being B Corp certified. By the way, I like John's last presentation, and I thought it was a nice pairing. Anything that empowers people to take an active stance in their own healthcare is quite interesting to me. And that's one thing that we're bringing into Volpara's future a bit more as well. So I loved watching the last presentation, and some of those elements of what they're working on resonates with me as a nurse as well. So yes, I'm Teri Thomas, and I'm CEO of Volpara, and I've been in the role for 9 months now. So just enough time to have a baby or implement a strategy. So we'll see if I can walk through a little bit more of that now. Standard disclaimer. As a company, our purpose remains the same. I think it's been for a while, which is saving families from cancer. And in our values, one of those values, it's be bold, it's be relentless, be extraordinary, and be whānau. And whānau is a Māori word for family or extended family. And we do recognize that cancer does impact entire families, not just the person that has cancer. So looking at it broadly is something important to our company. And just to share a little bit more about cancer, for those of you who aren't that familiar, cancer cases are on the rise, and breast cancer is the #1 most commonly diagnosed cancer. And as you can see, 2.3 million people are told they have breast cancer each year. And yet, with all of the work that has been done and all of the advances, there are still many, many people that lose their lives to cancer. Breast cancer isn't just for women either. There are men that get breast cancer, although by far more women. And it's not just the impact to the people that have cancer, but there's also an enormous cost to treating cancer. And you notice in the upper right-hand corner, stage 1 to stage 4, when you can detect cancer at an earlier stage, it not only makes the quality of life for the person diagnosed far better to be treated, their ability to live a long life, and early stages of cancer really are curable. There are lots of different numbers related to cost of cancer. This is actually quite conservative. However, it's one of those areas where it can be as much as 5 times more expensive for a later stage cancer than an early stage cancer. So there's a financial driver in that as well, where we can provide tangible benefit to our customers and even potentially whole government level impacts on spending on healthcare. So a quick high level of what Volpara does as a company. We provide an integrated workflow. And one of the things that you'll see for us going forward as a company is enabling significant value across that entire workflow. So the fact that we now have the ability to take someone on a journey from potentially engaging with a woman, say at age 30, and helping her understand her unique risk of cancer across her lifetime, giving her a personalized plan of when she should get a mammogram, should she have genetic testing, are there other things like ultrasound or MRI that should be part of her ideally cancer prevention plan as a new level beyond just what's happening in the mammogram and detection. But once we do bring people in for a mammogram, Volpara has the ability to assess the quality of the mammogram when the woman's in the room with the Volpara Live product. The Volpara scorecard will assess the density of the woman's breast, put together with their family risk, what is their lifetime risk of cancer outside of or inside of the mammogram episode. Provide information to the radiologist as well as the technologist about how well that mammogram was done, what's the quality of the image, and then managing the entire workflow through the patient hub product, including reporting back to the radiologist, the referring provider, and even to women to manage that entire episode of care. So that's a little bit of what we do as a company. And we've been doing this for quite a while, and I like the idea of crossing the chasm in terms of the enormous work that's gone into getting to where we are to get today with our FDA certifications, with our CEO marking, following the rigorous standards of ISO, HIPAA compliance, and MDSAP. As appropriate, but also approximately 40% of the mammograms that happen in the United States touch at least one of our products. So we're established, we're trusted, and now the key thing is these organizations that have chosen to work with us, how can we amp up and engage with them to do more? We're validated as an organization and growing within our current base to have a bigger impact. For example, helping our customers with integration of our multiple products, speeding up what they're doing right now and enabling them to do better care, more mammograms, reach more women, and ideally then grow into bringing in more large organizations, which we define as elephants, and I'll talk about that more in a second. One thing I'm personally passionate about and a trend in the industry is trying to look not just at what's happening at a moment in time, but driving to a much more personalized breast cancer journey. And the fact that 90% of women that actually carry genes that significantly impact their likelihood of having cancer is an opportunity for us to save families from cancer by getting them on a personalized plan that prevents cancer or detects it early enough that it can be cured and treated without significant impact on their whole families. And so this movement to early detection, moving to personalize and leveraging technology such as AI to do more and better is important to us and something that we're growing right now as a company. The major institutions that make their recommendations about breast cancer care all recommend that a woman know her risk by age 25 or at the latest age 30. So Volpara is putting investment and engagement with our customers on moving the needle for those that are pre-mammogram age through our Risk Pathways product. So this is a high level about what our Risk Pathways product does. and that it can be deployed multiple ways. But the beautiful thing about it is that it can be deployed in the context of seeing a primary care provider. Or I just came back personally last night from 6 weeks in the United States, and I met with multiple current customers as well as some prospective customers, and engaged with our executive team and our board. And I was excited to hear dialogue I'd never heard before. For example, when women are pregnant, that's a point in their lives where they become much more aware of their own health and their need to be able to be around for those children that are coming. So the ability to be able to engage with women at that point in their lives, well before they might be thinking about breast cancer, but get them thinking about it early enough that they've got a personalized plan that they understand. At some level, I'm so jet lagged, I'm surprised I can say things that are more than 3 syllables. I'll keep going. The Volpara analytics product is one that I've seen people actually literally jump up and down about. And there are 2 big drivers for that. One of those is that it reduces rework. When a woman gets a mammogram and they go home and someone calls and says, you need to come back in, they immediately think, oh my God, I have cancer. But it may be their image was blurred. They weren't positioned appropriately. It wasn't compressed enough, and the radiologist couldn't make sense of the mammogram and wants to do it again. So reducing the recalls for additional imaging is huge for the women, but it's also huge for our customers who are feeling significant pressure to do more with less, and they're still trying to catch up from the women that didn't get screening due to COVID, and they're still dealing with staff getting COVID and having a hard time making sure that all of their machines are being used and the women are coming in. So we characterize each image with our analytics and our live product as perfect, good, moderate, or inadequate. And we objectively, automatically, and quickly evaluate a number of different metrics and provide feedback immediately about not only the woman's density, but also the quality of that image on a particular objective scale, as you can see here. I'm going to speak for a moment about density. This is a view of our scorecard product. Density is a bit of a double whammy. If a woman has dense breasts, she not only is a higher risk of having breast cancer, but there's also a masking effect of the fibroglandular tissue that is dense breasts. So she's a higher risk of having cancer, or he, but also a higher risk of not seeing that cancer. So the foundation of our company was breast density, and we continue to drive the technology assessing breasts through all of our software. But then we're moving to another level, which is also taking that responsibility farther, and that's educating you, the investors, educating primary care doctors, educating other radiologists about what this means, and most importantly to me is educating women about what does density mean. So if you look in the upper left-hand corner, there's a little star that you can fairly plainly see under A. And if you look for it and you know it's there, you can see it fine under B. Yeah, it's a little bit more difficult to see with C and is fairly obscured with D. So this is not a dense breast. This is a dense breast. If you look in the lower right-hand corner, these are actual cancers that you can see plainly in an A, but how can you see where in here is the cancer? You can kind of see it there, but where is the cancer here? Where is the cancer here? Here's cancer in an A. Here is cancer in a dense breast. So helping women understand, and I visited someone who showed me that, look, my organization is following the guidelines about breast density. And so they told me my breasts are an A, and she asked me, is A good? Is A bad? Well, it takes time to explain what does A mean, what does D mean. So we as a company are willing to take that on and provide the information for patients to be able to see, you, Ms. Brown, this is what your mammogram said. this is what your actual mammogram looks like. This is where you are on the scale. And if you scan this QR code, we will educate you in far more detail, including that the stars kind of images, so that you understand your breast density. And I tell you, when someone is given that their tissue is denser and they are higher risk, the compliance for them to be able to come in either for supplemental testing, which might be an ultrasound where you can see the breast in a different way, or an MRI where you can see a lot more precisely the composition of their breasts, or even to come in for a mammogram every year if that's the recommendation, versus skipping it or doing it every 5 years. So here's an example of some of the materials that we share with women, and we are happy to continue to grow this as a company to make an impact on those women, their families, and hopefully truly save them from cancer instead of just detecting cancer earlier. Switching gears slightly, when I look at what the situation is with our competition, most of our competitors will work on one kind of manufacturer. So it might be Hologic, or it might be GE, or it may be that they work with just one genetic company that does genetic testing. And so as an organization, we've made a stance that we want to be Switzerland. We want to maintain vendor neutrality, and we have the ability to do that uniquely because we do our analysis for quality and density based on raw images instead of images that have been processed by different vendors. Switching gears a little bit more, I presented this slide a few months after coming in as CEO and looking at the company from a little bit of a different perspective. I came forward with my executive team on a slight variation to our go-forward strategy, which is balancing our noble purpose of saving families from cancer with an emphasis on shareholder value. So I describe it to people as we stand equally on 2 feet, and one of those is our purpose, and the other is profitability, that we are a public company and we can save more families from cancer if we do it in a way that we are financially healthy, strong, and ideally profitable. So as the other thing that I did was focus on having fun with customers and each other. So you will have seen on the first slide, the blue-footed booby, and I'll talk about that again at the very end, but we have a new corporate mascot. So the drive to profitability has been something important to me because looking at the company and the fact that we are established, we have some large organizations that have chosen us, and that as a company, we could focus on driving to being a very financially strong company, was a part of the strategy that we are executing on right now, and quite delighted to be able to report that we have had our first positive net cash flow break even, or cash flow positive quarter ever since our company was started. Now, lest you get super excited about it, I do want to put a caution out that I don't believe we're at a point where we'll be able to be consistently cash flow break even quite yet. We were able to do this based on improved cash receipts, improved debtor days. We reduced some of our costs, and we did acquire 2 companies over our history, and so we really assimilated more of those companies and got to some blended cross-functional teams, got to some consistent technology, and we've been making some operational improvements to reduce some of our costs going forward and ensure that we can have a strong operating model going forward. And we also did get some government grants and R&D tax credits that added to our quarter, but still, it's progress. We're doing well. We're on track for our cash flow positive annually next year. And we'll continue to drive to that strategy of reducing our outgoing costs and increasing our revenue coming in by focusing on large customers. As it was reported to the ASX somewhere right around the holidays, we did in fact add 4 new elephants to the Volpara game park. And I say we added them to the park versus We don't take out rifles and shoot anyone. It's not a violent industry that we're in. Our goal is to make the very best value for our customers that they wouldn't consider going to anyone else. So on-site women's health is one. And one thing I love about on-site is that they are also committed to engaging with women before mammography age, figuring out a personalized risk and a personalized plan for their women that they can see through after they've from in their 20s and 30s all the way through till they're in their 60s and 70s. So it's fantastic. Also, Bon Secours Mercy Health is a very large integrated delivery network. We're very proud that they've selected to work with us as an organization who is committed to quality and did a very, very thorough selection process evaluating everyone on the market that offered the software that we provide. And our Risk Pathways product is really key for integration with their electronic health record and driving that to be a standard of care in their workflows with patients at multiple levels. Adventist and Dooley Health were two customers that joined us, but we're also really happy that we got 5-year contract renewals with Centura Health, which is also a well-respected and large integrated delivery network in the Denver area. And then MD Anderson Cancer Center is one of the top 5 most respected cancer care organizations in the world. They're absolutely amazing. So again, fantastic validation that we're providing significant value to our customers and also positive execution of our elephant strategy. So a little bit more in the summary of our financials and our operations. So net operating and investing cash outflow. This positive quarter puts us in a really strong cash position, and we have no debt. And while we do maintain a revolving credit facility, I don't think that we need it. However, if it gives people more confidence in the time between now and routine positive profitability, fantastic. We added about $1.5 million of CAR in Q3, so a net run rate of over 1.1 million per quarter. Yep, and as I mentioned, several new elephants. We're increasing our ARPA, and that is the average revenue per account. And that's a way for us to be able to see if we're executing correctly on our elephant strategy. So that's a little bit of the highlights of our financials. And am I on time? I was supposed to take 20 minutes, and here I am.
You're
any questions
on time, Teri? Thank you so much. And I should also say, Teri glossed over it in her presentation, but she just got back in from the US yesterday and managed to battle her way through the floods at Auckland Airport as well. So very much appreciated for joining us this morning.
I was quite hoping I was going to do this from some beautiful place like Tahiti, but alas, I made it home just in the nick of time.
Yeah. I just want to, it's a kind of a follow-over question from what John and Will were saying, and you did touch on it a bit in your presentation. Post-COVID 2020, 2023, you know, where are we, do you feel, in the normalization of, you know, testing and screening, and you know, where are we in the catch up, if that makes sense? I know they're kind of interlinked, but also like quite different in terms of, you know, the markets, the main markets that Volpara operates in. Is it still quite a way to go to get back to what was a regular year in 2019, in your opinion?
Yeah, I did ask lots of customers. You would not believe the number of cities I spent different nights in all over the US. I crisscrossed it twice and spoke with several customers about what's their situation. And I'd like to ask key decision makers, what are the things that keep you awake at night? What are your biggest challenges? Because I firmly believe as a company, if we align what we deliver with what our customers need and what will provide clear, tangible value that will be in good shape, and it'll support the commercial strategy of growth. And COVID did come up in those couple questions. The two biggest answers, most common answers I got were, from a technology perspective, people are always worried about cybersecurity, and I'm quite happy that the feedback we get from our customers is that we are head and shoulders above vendors like us in the strength of our security team and how we've built that into the software. So that's validating that that effort is worth it. But the number two is that whether it's a mix of we're still catching up from women who haven't gotten screened from COVID, a challenge with ongoing COVID, so staff still getting COVID, and so number of sick days and long COVID, sprinkled with a little bit of great resignation kind of stuff. Staffing is the number two answer I get. Struggles to have enough technologists to be able to support the appointments that people have, struggles to get enough radiologist time to be able to read all of the mammograms, and even the cost of traveling technologists. So, kind of, it's like a locum, I think you might say in Australia. Mm-hmm. But that I had one of my customers said she was 80% down on her number of technologists. So she said to me, what you do, Volpara, in your analytics product by automating the reporting and saving a lot of time that's spent to manually go through and match up image quality with machines and technologists is absolutely critical to our operations. Trying to hire people, get them trained, make sure that they're providing a good enough quality that they're not having to call people back, being able to leverage the investments in the machinery and the clinics that are there are huge drivers in the industry. So we are not over the hump, and we're not to business as usual. I'm not sure we will ever get there in this world, in the mammography world, because when you look at what's happening with demographics, the number of images that radiologists need to read in terms of imaging used as a diagnostic modality is increasing, but the number of radiologists that are graduating from medical school and the number of doctors that are choosing radiology is not nearly enough to keep up. Also, even those that are choosing radiology, how many of them are choosing mammography versus sexier areas like interventional radiology? Also, it's just not a huge attraction area. So I see us having a long-term problem that I could probably say delightfully can be helped by technology, positions Volpara very, very well to help solve some of those problems. And you will see, since we just finished a retreat for a couple of weeks, that more of Volpara's communication will be what are ways for us to leverage technology to address those demographic changes.
And just on the new customers, if I can do a kind of maybe a two-part question. The first part is those few new elephant customers that have joined the Volpara herd, if I can say that. How long does it take to get them up and running and fully implemented? Is the first part, and then the second one is I remember from some of Ralph's previous presentations, he had dots on a world map of centers and hospitals that were using Volpara's technology, and I remember the US was very well covered. So when you talk about more elephants still to join, are they in other markets outside the US, or is there specific customers still in the US that can be considered an elephant despite Volpara's kind of recognition and use in the US market already?
Sure. I'll address the first one. How long does it take to get these customers deployed? I'm very proud that we actually had a record implementation. It's with one of these customers, and it was 4 days from contract signing to live deployment. And so that isn't typical, by the way, but I love challenging our staff, and when they step up and do what you think might not have been possible and do it safely in a way that customers are happy. So 4 days is definitely not typical, but it does vary. We've got 3 kind of product families, and I say a couple of them include multiple products, but our Risk Pathways product can be deployed via the web or integrated within the electronic health record. The web deployment can happen very fast. The integrations are generally the things that take us a lot longer because they're reliant on other vendors' systems being deployed, and a cooperation between us, IT, and another vendor. So the integrated and the integrations tend to take anywhere from 3 months to a year. And I say typical is going to be probably in the 5 to 6 month range. However, when we don't rely on having to have those integrations in place, we can get systems up in 3 or 4 weeks pretty routinely, or in this one case, 4 days, although my team would kill me if I said you need to do that repeatedly, because they did move heaven and earth to make it happen. And of those new customers, customers bought analytics, scorecard, risk pathways, patient hub and scorecard, and risk pathways, analytics, risk pathways, and scorecard, all of the different combinations across those 4 new customers and 2 extensions. So they're all over the map on how long it'll take to be deployed, but most of them within the next 6 to 9 months will be successfully using most, if not all, of our software. Then that actually is probably a good segue into your dots on the world map question. And have we penetrated the US market? What potential is there? Somewhere around between 80 and 85% of our customers only have one piece of our software deployed. So even though 40% of the market touches at least one of our pieces of software, when we do an analysis of how much do we have to get to broader use of our software, if we wanted people to use each of those 3 main families of software across their organizations, we're likely closer to 10% of the market, maybe 10 to 15, which gives us a significant upside and a consistent place for us to be able to upsell our current customer base alongside bringing in new customers. There are, we've got the beautiful thing about elephants is that you can here's how you define an elephant. You can look at, all right, who are the elephants? How many have our software? How many don't? How many have competitive software? How many, are a greenfield that we can move into a multi-product situation? And that gives our sales team some concrete marching orders. But the other thing is we created in the last 9 months a new part of our company, the customer success. And customer success team, their job is to make our customers be all they can be with our software. And so they're a great group to be able to manage a lot of that upselling and cross-selling within the base. Last comment, because I'm on my last minute, there is pretty significant potential outside of the US that we are not fully realizing yet. And part of that is because our strategy of driving to profitability means we're focusing on the highest return areas. Reality is the US spends more on healthcare technology than anyone else in the world. So we want to make sure that we're taking advantage of the opportunities in the United States as the first priority, Canada and Australia as secondary, New Zealand because it's our home. But we do have our eyes to Northern Europe, and we've got a lot of research going on in Europe, and you may see us expand more into Europe in the latter part of this year.
So just to summarize there, Teri, would it be fair to say in the US market, it's more about upselling and cross-selling and trying to get existing customers buying more from you, whereas if we look at the other international markets, it's actually more kind of a market entry strategy? Would that be fair to say?
Yes and no. I agree with you. Outside of the US, it's market entry strategy. Within the US, I would say we're about 50-50 between upselling into existing elephants, and yet half of the elephants still don't have us. or don't have us in any significant way. So, when we look at new sales coming in, we still have a lot of elephants that we can bring in, as a lot of our current customers, we hadn't had the elephant strategy 9 months ago, so we had lots of small customers. So there's still lots of big ones that are brand new that we can bring into the game park.
Okay, perfect. Teri, yeah, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us straight, literally off the plane and out of the flood waters. It's very much appreciated, and hopefully we can have you back again at some stage in 2023 when we're a bit further into the year.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Teri, and thanks everybody. And just a reminder, we've got another Appendix 4C results wrap happening tomorrow morning, 9 to 11. We'll have 4 more ASX microcaps presenting. So if anybody wants to tune into that, you can check out the agenda on Twitter. You'll find it there, or indeed just drop me an email at mark@coffeemicrocaps.com if you want me to send over a link. And with that, I'll wish everybody a good rest of their Monday. Thank you.